Hello, this will be an extended walkthrough of the RM demo base. This will be the interface layer in Airtable. First thing you'll notice here on the left, we've got three different interfaces with a variety of pages within each. The top interface here is called All. Within it, we've got 5 pages, including 3 utilizations views, a roster showing all resources. We've got a project list. Below, we've got a work team lead view, or WTL, and we've got a dashboard. These are two other interfaces that we'll get into later. To start with, you've got 3 resource utilization views. Each are grouped slightly differently. The first one's grouped by just resource, showing resources in their projects. The second one is grouped by role and then by resource. And the third one is grouped by project. So here you can see it's a large list showing all users within an organization, and you're able to see their allocations. Immediately you can see that there are some reds, there's some yellows, and the majority of them are green. This color is customizable. You can customize it to depending on if you want to see a blue or a different color, yellow. It's all every piece of this is customizable. To start with, at the top here, we've got some filters. So you can see we got resource, work team lead or manager. We've got project. We've got role. These are preset filters here that we added for this. We could actually add more. We can take some away. We can do different filters. This is customizable. To the right here, you can see that you have a filter button. So in addition to having these preset filters, we can also allow you to filter even in other different ways. So if you want to filter by dates, if you want to filter by allocation, etc., you can do that over here. Depending on what data exists on your data layer, can drive what things you can filter by. So as I said here, you can filter. You can click into one of these. You can click several. So if you're a specific manager or you're just wanting to see a certain few people that you need to look at, you can just select their names. Work team leads here. So this is like if I'm Brent, for example, I want to see my people, I can just click here and filter down to that. Also for projects. So if you're a project manager, or if you know that you have a couple of resources that are on a project and you want to see that project specifically, you can click into the project specifically. Lastly, here we have role. So if you want to see development engineers, you can click that. You can see a list of all those. Once you have your view filtered down to how you want it, to the right here, you can see that you can click today. It takes you to today. This is currently set. The time scale is set for quarter split into months. This is customizable as well. The default is set to quarter split into months based on the build, but we can actually change that depending on what you want the default to be. But each individual user that looks at this and has access to this page can actually adjust this to how they want to see it. So if they want to do quarter into 2 weeks, they can do that. If they want to do month, split into days, split into weeks, or split into 2-week periods, they can do that. So however they want to see the data, you can just filter it here, slice it here, and just adjust that time scale. We go back to quarter into months for this. These here will actually adjust one period forward, one period backwards. So depending on what you're set as a time scale, so if you're set for months, you can go back 1 month, go forward 1 month. If you're at that quarter level, it goes back 1 quarter, forward 1 quarter. So different ways you can adjust that and play with the time scale. Then you can see allocations here. So depending on what you want to see, what section you're looking at, this can filter down. You can click directly into these to pop out a side panel. For the utilization view itself, you can see that here we're just looking at the overall utilization of each individual resource. To the left of each name, you can see there's an arrow. Click that name, it actually expands out, and you can see the projects that they're assigned to. So Brett here is assigned to 4 projects, Gemini 1 and 2, Perimeter, and then a project support. And he's also assigned to admin time. All users are assigned to an admin time project. This is a way that you can block off utilization for operations work, KTL, keep the lights on work, etc. You can set up the percent allocation you want that to block off, number of hours per week you want that to block off, etc. However you want to do it, you can set that up. You can see here that in these projects to the right, you can see their role. So Brett is a development engineer in the performance seating area. You can see the allocations of each individual project. So 10% for Gemini 1 and 2, 40% for Perimeter, and 25% for that. And you can see the assignment dates. So we've got, here's the dates here for each individual allocation. And you can see how those are rolling up. So you can see Brett here is at 100%. If you add up all the allocations, you get that total. You can see as I scroll right, you can see that when the allocations end, the utilization adjusts from 100% by down to 15%. These happen all at the same time, and so it just immediately adjusts down. As you saw earlier, you can actually click into these projects as well. So if I click into this one here, it pops a little window. I can see some key information about it, pretty much the same as what you see here on the label. But then right here, you can actually expand allocation. This pops up a little side window that is fully customizable. Each individual field here can be taken away, can be added. Additional fields can be added. Whatever you want to see here, we can customize it that way depending on what data you have. This shows you key information about Brett, including email, associate ID, role, their assignment dates, their allocations per month, etc. over the course of the allocation. It also shows them the project. So in this case, you wanted to click into this project itself and see information, you can do that as well. This is another customizable dive down that we can have added. It is added here. We can take it away really easily. From here, you can see key information about the project description, size, innovation level, sales channels, phase information, so finish dates for each individual phase within the project, including start and finish dates. These little clickable panels that pop out are customizable. Currently, this is set to like a half screen or quarter screen panel. It can be set up to where it goes full screen depending on what kind of data and how much data you're trying to show. You can also allow this to not be clickable. So in case that you just want the users to read it, to look at this and only see this and not be able to click and do any additional panels, you can set it up that way as well. So this is the first view here, just looking at all users, filterable down to whatever groups or people you want to see. Next, you've got role. This is a very similar view, except it's grouped by role and then by resource type and then by name. So for example, here, if I want to go to PD Ops, and actually do CAD here, so you can see that you've got resource type. So if you've got a resource management solution, you most likely want to assign allocations for projects to specific roles, specific placeholders, when you don't know for sure who you're going to assign that to. So in this scenario, you can set up placeholder roles that exist that you can allocate to projects. When you do that, you can use this view here to see the utilization of that placeholder role. So for example, here we've got the resource CAD role. You can see that they're assigned to one project at 20%. And then we've got a handful of people assigned to that role, and you can also see their allocations as well. So at any point, you can swap out the allocation from the resource to any of these because they have the allocation available. It's very similar view, same filters at the top. You have the same ability to sort, filter additionally, group differently if you really wanted to, adjust the time scale, and then click into any of these projects if you want to, just the same way. Then we've got project, very similar view, group by project. The main difference here is that you see a count here instead of utilization at the top level. This is showing you that there are 9 people assigned to carbon. So if we're here, I'll change this out into months. I can see that there's 9 people assigned each month for that carbon project. If you had a different number of people assigned at some point throughout a project, you would see that difference here. So if I expand this project out, I can see that it is then grouped at the top. It shows you the groupings. So it's grouped by project, by work team lead or manager, and it's grouped by resource name. So now it's showing me work team leads here. And then it's showing me those individual users below. So Brendan, Danielle, and Raha are assigned to this project And you can see that they fall under Brent as their work team lead. And I can expand Jim out and see all the ones that are under Jim and then Isaac. Same process here. You can click into these specific people, click into their projects. Again, that's customizable. We can turn that on and off. Next, we got the resource roster. This is just a full record view here where you're able to scroll on the left, see all users that exist. Click into their profiles, if you want to call it that. You can see their bill rates if you want to show that. You can see their location, their title, region, their role, email, their chain of management. So there's their manager and goes up the chain from there. You can see what they're assigned to down here, where you're actually able to click into that same view that you could get to from the utilization view, as well as the project. To the right here, you're able to actually add conversations and collaborate. So if you wanted to mention them about, ask them about something or ask someone specific about something on their page, you could do that as well. You can filter by role here. Additionally, you could add other filters, just like you could from the other page. You could also group if you want to. And it's sorted by default, but you can actually sort this differently if you want. Last here, we got the project list. This is a very cool view. This shows you a list of all projects with key information about that project. And it also gives you the ability to dive into the resources assigned to that project and to see their utilizations from a high level. From here, you can see you've got the projects are sorted A to Z. You can actually sort these differently to the right here if you want to. So if you wanted to sort by, the count of resources, right? You can see right here how many resources are assigned. So all resources are assigned to admin time, but you can see that you get 0, 2, 3. You got project start, finish, lead, category, brand, and description. These columns here are customizable. We can add additional columns if you want and allow people to scroll to the right and see more information. We can also change it up depending on what data you have. You can resize the columns. All this stuff is customizable for my specific view. I'm looking at this. I can kind of change slightly and adjust, including the filters, the sorts, the groups. To the left here, you can see I can expand these out. This will show you the allocations, those resources assigned to that project. So for this project here, we've got 3 people, Sarah, Danielle, and Brock, assigned to this localization support project. I can see their IDs, I can see their work team lead, and I can see their allocation per month for over the assignment dates that they have here. I can click on this where it's just open. I can click anywhere on this row. And it gives you that same pop-out view that you're used to seeing from the other pages. Additionally, you can click on the project itself, which gives you that project view that we showed earlier. This is a really cool view to be able to see and poke through each of the projects. If you're a project manager, this could be filtered down specifically for your projects. We could filter it by project lead so that when you load up this page, you only see your projects. That those current user filters are available as well. This is a cool way to see the allocations of those users for each project. Again, it's filterable. Filter by project type, project size, brand, and category, as well as other ones over here that I want to add. So it's very customizable. The filters across the top are customizable. Each of these buttons are. We can add new additional filters to the top. We can change them up. And all of these pages here in this interface and the other interfaces are all customizable with the widgets that show up, the way the data is filtered, what data is showing, the visibility of it, depending on who you are. Certain pages can be hidden from certain users and user groups. So this whole interface layer is very customizable. The next interface we have is the WTL, it's Work Team Lead interface. This is very similar to the resource utilization views we saw earlier, except these are grouped by Work Team Lead and then also by the different levels of the management chain. So the use case for this is going to be for those managers who want to see their direct reports. And then the managers who have reports, who have direct reports below them. So you have multi-levels going down. So the higher you up you go in the chain of command is where each individual views will be valuable. This first level here is just work team lead, right? This one ideally is for any user who has direct reports and they want to see their direct reports and their utilizations. So you can see here, if I'm Brent, I can see my direct reports, Brendan, Brett, Danielle. I can expand it out just like I could before. I can see their allocations. So if I'm specifically Brent and I want to see my direct reports and their utilizations, I would go here. I can filter this down directly to me if I want to and only see this. I can also filter down by project. So I want to filter by a specific project or a specific role. I can do that as well. And that's really the first view here. The next view is if we were to go up the chain, right? So Brent, again, here, I can see my direct reports. Now, if I go to the second view, let's say I'm also Brent here in the same situation, I can see my name here as well. But now I can see my name and I can see these other people. If you remember from the last view, Jim, Isaac, Vince, Lindo, these are my direct reports. You can see down here if I scroll that every single one of these people below, I am Brent. If I'm Brent, I exist as their work team lead plus, which means that second level up of the chain. So I can see Brent, I can see the same people I could in the last view. I can then see Jim, who's under Brent. I can see that Jim's direct reports. So if I'm looking at a further down view and I want to see that, I'm able to do that. Now, after that, we can go even further. So the next level here, you can see that the list is going to get smaller and smaller as we go up. All right, as you go up the chain of commands. So here we got about 6-ish, 7 people here. So we've got Brian, Elaine, Eric, Graham, Jennifer, John, and Larry. All right, so if I am John, which would be Brent's boss here, I guess, in this situation of dummy names, you can see here that I can now see Brent. Right, so if I'm John, I can click into this. I go directly to this individual page. I can now see my individual reports and all of their reports. All right, so if I'm John, you can see there's a John also drop down, right? So I can see my direct reports, but I can also see my reports and their direct reports and their direct reports. So you can go to those multiple levels to where, as someone who's higher up in a department or an organization, I can see people who I'm responsible for. And the last one here is the top level, right? So you've got 3 people and it breaks down. So depending on what level you are, depends on what level you would go to. If you're someone who has a few direct reports, you would go to the first one. If you're someone that has direct reports and those direct reports have direct reports, then you would maybe go to the second one. If you're someone who's like a department head or a VP, you'd potentially go to the third one. And then here it would be for, C-suite top level people. These are all customizable. You can see the groupings, right? The only difference between these are just the groupings. So depending on the data you have, we can group it different ways. Depending on if you have a certain management chain, you can group it that way. You can allow specific users and groups to see each individual page. The last interface here we have is the dash. This is an example of what you could do to extract metrics from the data. To start with here, we've got some project metrics. This is just counts of projects. So we've got 75 total projects. We've got project type of NPD and manual. You can see this is a specific breakdown of those types. You can see here that we've allowed some of these to be expanded and some of them down here to not be, so that you can customize that. So if I click into this, I can see the whole list of projects, start and finish dates, and lead. Same thing with these other ones over here. You can click and see those. You can customize what you see when you click into these side panels. If you want to see additional columns, if you want to allow this to be clickable, you can. Like currently this is not clickable. you can turn that on. It's very customizable. The second section here is resource plans metrics. To start with, you've got a lot of filter options. So depending on what you want to see, if you don't want to see the portfolio as a whole, you can filter directly down. Below, we've got total allocations across all projects. So you've got 154 allocations. You've got 144 person allocations, so people allocated to projects, not unique people, just total people. And you've got placeholders. This is a good one for if you wanted to see kind of what placeholders were assigned, where there's pending work that needs to be assigned out. So you can pop this out and you can see that for the Frontier 4 project, you've got a lot of resource roles assigned that haven't been assigned yet to specific people. Below, you've got 2 charts, total effort allocated per project. This is a breakdown of this hours allocated to each individual project. And then you've got the count of resources assigned. So you want to see where the bulk of your resources are assigned. Frontier and Carbon, 2 projects here. You got 20 resources assigned to those. This is a stack chart as well. So you can see that if I hover, resource type is placeholder. So the orange is placeholder, the blue is person. So the only project that has any placeholders assigned is this Frontier project. The rest of them do not. Back up here to the filters, you can see that we've got projects. Let's say I wanted to filter specifically by carbon. I'll do that. You can see that the metrics as well as the charts filtered out for that. So I'm able to dive into that. If I want to see project types, I just want to see MPD projects. If you had departments, if you had projects tagged to departments or tagged to business units or any other tags that you had projects tagged to or resources tagged to, you can filter by those things. So for example, role. Show me all the development engineers. How are they allocated across projects? What are their hours allocated across projects? Maybe you want to filter by a specific resource, right? So that Brett we looked at earlier, if I filter by Brett, he's got 5 allocations. Here are his projects and the hours per project. Maybe you want to see resource types. Again, the placeholder metric here you can pop into is there, but you can also filter down everything else if you want to as well. And then you got work team lead. So again, if I'm Brent and I want to see my people, I can click into this and immediately see this information filtered down. So very customizable. Again, the filters here are customizable as well. We can add more filters depending on what kind of data you have. We can take it away. We can restrict it. We can restrict the dives. We can deep dive into individual stuff. Again, now this is not clickable, but we can make this clickable. You can really dive down multiple levels if you wanted to. You can add additional charts, additional metrics to this. This is just a good example here of metrics and charts and filters. And now you can have a dashboard that pulls information from your data layer. So this is the interface layer. Again, we've got the 3 interfaces, specific pages. These can be shared out different ways. Each individual person, each individual groups of people, by role, by access type. The interfaces can be filtered down so that you see what you need to see. You can only access what you're allowed to access. That's all customizable. Permissioning is very strong within Airtable interfaces. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed the demo. Let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.